Tonight, the demonstrations go national. Coast-to-coast protests over policing and excessive force. The NYPD begins testing body cameras, and a grand jury is convened in the fatal shooting of another unarmed black man in New York. Reports from Michelle Miller and Jim Axelrod. An alleged gang rape at a fraternity sent shockwaves across the nation. Now the magazine that broke the news apologizes, saying it has doubts about the accuser's story. Nancy Cordes has the latest.
And liftoff.
The flight of Orion. Chip Reed on one small step toward Mars. And Steve Hartman on the road with a couple who found love is where the heart is.
I think we fell in love the moment we seen each other.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. Scott is off tonight. I'm Maurice Dubois, and this is our Western edition. 2 days after a New York City grand jury cleared a white police officer in the chokehold death of an unarmed black man, the protests are growing larger and spreading across the country, including Boston and Chicago. And now another New York grand jury, this one in Brooklyn, is about to investigate the shooting of another unarmed black man. Michelle Miller begins our coverage.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
Today, the chant on the streets of Chicago was like thousands heard last night in New York,
I can't breathe!
at a protest in Minneapolis,
I can't breathe!
and at a die-in on the campus of Clemson University.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
The last words of 43-year-old Eric Garner have become a rallying cry for thousands across the country.
Don't shoot!
The angry voices over the choking death of Garner looked and sounded as diverse as the thousands who marched.
You know, if you think about the civil rights movement, it took 10 years for anything to really happen between the protests and the boycotts of the buses to the actual Civil Rights Act. So it's going to take time, but we got to keep fighting.
Everybody's here together, black, white, brown, everybody.
Those who couldn't march stood in their windows in solidarity. Hundreds shut down major highways in multiple cities. While most remained nonviolent, there were a few clashes. A helicopter camera caught one New York police officer being punched. The NYPD arrested 200, mostly for minor offenses.
Disorderly conduct is what I was just told.
Their purpose was to peacefully disrupt what they see as the routine of injustice.
We're not allowed to march in our own streets.
Protests may soon add Akai Gurley's name to the list. As Gurley's family prepared for his funeral today, the Brooklyn District Attorney announced a grand jury will review why a rookie officer shot and killed the unarmed 28-year-old in a dark stairwell 2 weeks ago.
I can't breathe!
His death may add volume to the demonstrators' voices as they once again take to the streets tonight.
It speaks to history.
Ariel Newton is a protest organizer.
This is a clear-cut example of police brutality, and it's a clear-cut example of not being held accountable. That's what's striking a nerve with people.
It is raining here in Lower Manhattan, but that has not stopped the crowds from gathering here in the heart of Wall Street. And Maurice, we should note that organizers tell us they have planned protests throughout the weekend and into next week.
Michelle Miller here in New York, thank you. And today, the New York City Police Department began a pilot program equipping some of its officers with body cameras. About 50 officers in 6 precincts will wear them for the next 3 months. If the test is successful, the goal will be to equip every officer in the country's largest police force with a body camera. The video of Eric Garner's fatal encounter with the police, captured on a cell phone, has made him a national symbol of what many see as the unfair treatment of black men by the police. Here's Jim Axelrod.
Put your hand behind your back. You can't breathe.
It's the video that's launched an army of protesters in New York and Chicago and Boston and Minneapolis. But the number and diversity of those protesting suggests the Garner case carries a certain power that other controversies involving police and race did not, at least according to Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams.
And when you look at the people who are involved, it used to be just African American and Hispanic. This issue was localized to those communities. That is no longer the case.
For Adams, who's also a former NYPD captain with 22 years on the force, this video has moved the needle.
It caused a tipping point that people were able to hear verbally what was going wrong. They were able to visually see it, and they were able to identify that a man's life was taken for doing a minor offense. That cannot happen in America.
I think it's upsetting and troubling to anybody that saw it.
Conservative commentator Pete Wehner, who worked for the last 3 Republican presidents, has the same take on the fallout from the Garner grand jury. The brother of a police officer, Wehner supported the cops in Ferguson, but not those in the chokehold death, and says he's not alone.
I think, in a sense, Ferguson was more polarized. I think that people were in their traditional camps making traditional arguments. I think this case in Staten Island is different. You've got a lot of conservatives like me who are really troubled by what happened here.
Wehner says people who don't usually get off their couches and into the streets are doing so now because they don't see this as a political or ideological issue, but as a moral one, and that moral issues have a way of pushing people into the streets. Moise?
Jim Axelrod, thank you. There was a protest march last night in Phoenix after a white officer shot and killed an unarmed black man there on Tuesday. Rumain Brisbane was suspected of selling drugs. The officer claims that during a struggle, he thought he felt a gun in Brisbane's pants. It turned out to be a pill bottle. Marijuana and a gun were later found in Brisbane's car. And the family of a 12-year-old who was carrying a toy gun when he was shot and killed by a Cleveland police officer filed a wrongful death lawsuit today. Tamir Rice was seen waving the toy in a park last month. Surveillance video shows the officer shooting him just 2 seconds after arriving on the scene. Rice's family is suing the city and the 2 officers involved. Rolling Stone magazine apologized today for an article that generated worldwide headlines and cast a harsh spotlight on the University of Virginia. A student claimed she was gang raped at a fraternity party and was ignored by campus officials. Nancy Cordes tells us Rolling Stone is now backpedaling on the story.
The article was called A Rape on Campus, and it detailed a 2012 attack on a freshman Rolling Stone called Jackie, who described being thrown through a low glass table as 7 men took turns raping her at UVA's Phi Kappa Psi fraternity. The story led school officials to suspend all fraternities for the semester. Phi Kappa Psi was vandalized. But as other outlets began to investigate, discrepancies emerged. Jackie told Rolling Stone, for instance, she was attacked while attending a date function with a fraternity member she met while working lifeguard shifts together at the university pool. In a statement, Phi Kappa Psi said today, as far as we have determined, no member of our fraternity worked at the Aquatic Center in any capacity during this time period. And the chapter did not have a date function or social event during the weekend of September 28, 2012. Today, Rolling Stone's managing editor, Will Dana, released this statement. There now appear to be discrepancies in Jackie's account, and we have come to the conclusion that our trust in her was misplaced. Some of those discrepancies might have come to light sooner if the magazine had reached out to Jackie's alleged attackers. But Dana says we decided to honor her request not to contact any of the men she claimed participated in the attack for fear of retaliation against her. Dana says we now regret the decision. Some students worry this whole incident will discourage victims from speaking up. First year, Hannah Hall.
This is why people don't report, because they're so worried that they're going to be attacked as liars, and they're so worried that they're going to be seen as someone who's just making things up for attention.
Jackie told the Washington Post she stands by her story, and her faculty advisor told us she thinks Jackie is honest and was assaulted. Maurice Tonight, the president of UVA, says the school has a new focus now on campus rape and that today's developments, quote, must not alter this focus.
Nancy Cordes in Washington Tonight. Thank you. We have come a long way since the Great Recession. This could be the best year for job creation in 15 years. The Labor Department reported today that employers added 321,000 jobs last month, and the unemployment rate held steady at 5.8%. More now from senior business correspondent Anthony Mason.
At the new Marriott Hotel, rising in Austin, Texas, the Help Wanted sign went up today.
Tell me about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Seattle.
Okay. Among the applicants was Cedric Turner.
Hey, I'm looking for a job here.
Turner, who's 40, works full-time in a call center, but wants to be a concierge.
So I think I can provide, good hospitality, good customer service to the guests.
Marriott's Scott Blaylock has 700 positions to fill for the new hotel, which will be the biggest in Austin.
Accounting, sales, event planning, we've got jobs for just about anything anybody might want in the hotel business.
After ages of waiting for breakout job growth, November saw the biggest jump in payrolls in nearly 3 years.
Are we finally getting it?
We do seem to be close to a tipping point now, although, we are cautious on that.
Economist Diane Swank with Chicago's Mesirow Financial says the economy is not just creating more jobs.
In fact, the composition of jobs is starting to improve a bit. We're starting to see those meat-on-the-bone jobs of full-time hires in accounting, business services, technology consultants. This is something that was really absent until about 6 months ago.
Hiring in manufacturing and healthcare, typically better paying trades, helped hourly earnings jump 0.4%, the biggest gain in more than a year. But compared to a year ago, hourly wages are still up only 2.1%, a gain that's all but wiped out by inflation, which means most families, Maurice, are still just treading water.
Anthony Mason, thank you very much. The economy may be creating more jobs, but not enough of the kinds of jobs that make ends meet. Here's Anna Werner.
In Waxahachie, Texas, at her small roadside food stand, 47-year-old Kathy Jones told us she's been trying for 5 years to raise herself above minimum wage.
Sounds like you've been struggling.
I have been. Yes, I have. Do y'all want a French fries with
her high school education only got her fast food jobs, so now she works 7 days a week here just to break even.
I'm just doing the best I can right now to just, to let it stay afloat. Pretty much what I make, I put it right back out.
How was the economy back then?
Restaurant owner Jonathan Evola pays his kitchen help up to $13 an hour, nearly twice the minimum wage in Texas. But he can't keep pace with the cost of living, up 11% since 2008.
My employees need more than what I'm even able to give them to pay their current bills. And I pay above average for what my industry people get paid.
Paul Stevens is city manager.
As you look around your community, who are the people who you think may not be recovering yet?
I think many of those people that are working in the retail sector, that are working in the service sectors, they probably are not recovering as quickly.
Wages for some higher-paying jobs in the region fell too. A computer programmer's pay dropped from $22.79 an hour to $18.65. Jones says in March, her best month, she took home $800. In the last few months, no profit.
You guys have a good day.
You too.
Anna Werner, CBS News, Waxahachie, Texas.
It may be small consolation for Kathy Jones, but she lives in one of the 2 states with the lowest gas prices in America. Nationally, the average price tonight is $2.71 a gallon. But in Texas and Oklahoma, some stations are selling gas for less than $2. President Obama nominated Ashton Carter today to replace Chuck Hagel as Secretary of Defense. Carter was Hagel's number 2 at the Pentagon, an expert on Russia and North Korea, before retiring last year. Carter is 60. If confirmed, he'll be the first defense secretary to come of age after the Vietnam War. Not since Apollo has NASA had a mission like this. Orion puts us on the path to Mars. And Planet of the Baboons, the intruder that almost gave a golfer a stroke. When the CBS Evening News continues. NASA opened a new era today in space exploration. 3.5 years after the shuttle was retired, Orion took flight. Chip Reed is at the Kennedy Space Center.
On top of a Delta IV rocket, the largest in the U.S. inventory, Orion thundered into space today for a crucial 4.5-hour test flight. Orion circled the globe twice, reaching an altitude of 3,600 miles, 14 times higher than the International Space Station. In the most nerve-wracking moment, Orion re-entered Earth's atmosphere at a blazing 20,000 miles an hour, generating temperatures of 4,000 degrees. The advanced heat shield designed to keep astronauts safe appeared to have performed flawlessly.
Main chute deploy.
The enormous parachutes that slowed Orion for a gentle splashdown in the Pacific also passed with flying colors.
It was also really, really cool.
Mark Geyer is the top NASA official in charge of the Orion program.
What's the big picture significance of this mission?
It's the beginning of showing that, the United States is getting back to exploring the solar system. And Orion has the systems that we're going to need to do that. And today we put them to the test.
Orion may look like the old Apollo capsule that took men to the moon, but Orion is larger and vastly more sophisticated. And it had better be, because NASA's plan is to use Orion to take astronauts all the way to Mars.
Passing 25 seconds.
Succeeding in that mission, though, will depend on whether future Congresses, future presidents, and future American publics are willing to spend untold billions to get there. But try telling that to Mark Geyer.
So you're going to Mars?
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it, and it started today.
Even if he's right, it will take a very long time. NASA's plan is for the first Orion to land on Mars in the 2030s, which means the astronauts who would be flying those missions are in preschool today. Maurice?
Chip Reed at the Kennedy Space Center, thank you. A typhoon ravaged the Philippines 1 year ago. Tonight, they're preparing for another direct hit. That's just ahead. Washington is honoring its mayor for life. A casket carrying the remains of Marion Barry was driven around D.C. in a 3-hour procession today before a public viewing tonight. Barry served 4 terms as mayor, a hero to many, despite going to prison after being caught on tape smoking crack. Barry died last month. He was 78. Tonight, the Philippines is bracing for a direct hit from a super typhoon. Winds have already kicked up along the coast. Today, crews trimmed branches from trees to limit the damage. Thousands have crowded into shelters. The typhoon has wind gusts of more than 150 miles an hour. It's headed for a region that was devastated by another typhoon last year. Well, 2 people with broken hearts find love when they find each other. Steve Hartman on the road is next. And that is the CBS Evening News. Scott will be back on Monday. I'm Maurice Dubois in New York. Thanks for joining us. Good night.